muli mga kaibigan. Ngayon po ay 11 ng buwan ng Hunyo 2022 at katulad po niyong inaasahan, Raul Espera sa inyo pong mga kasama sa Balitang Paliparan. Alam nyo ay maganda ang ating tatalakayin, pagpapatuloy natin. Last week, tinalakay natin yung malaking problema sa internet connection na ngayon ay nasa ilalim ng ahensya ng DICT, no? At if I'm not mistaken, pati NTC ay may hawak dito sa ating tatalakayin na ito, no? Last week ay naipaliwanag sa atin yung problema na kung saan natanggal yung isang terms of reference at tila merong nangyayaring mabilisan bago makaupo ang bagong administrasyon, mabilis ang pagmamadali nitong sistema ng internet sa DICT para sa buong bansa ho ito, no? Importante na marinig niyo po ito dahil kinabukasan ng ating mga estudyante, kinabukasan ng mga LGU, kinabukasan ng nating lahat at para po maipaliwanag sa atin ang kahalagahan ng internet connection sa buong Pilipinas. Okay, nasa unang acknowledge natin, nasa kabilang linya po natin ang ating kaibigan na si Calvin Parpan. Calvin, magandang hapon. Okay. Waiting pa. Okay. Okay. Also with us this afternoon is Sir Nathan Kinsella. Sir Nathan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, Nathan. And let's continue what we have left our conversation last week. Can you explain to us, to our listeners and to our viewers, what is the importance of the internet connection being processed under DICT right now?
Well, I mean, it's part of connecting all of us that are not able to be connected to the internet. So it's projects that would include the Department of Education and all of our schools and school teachers and administrators. It's really about connecting our country. So it touches on the lives of many Filipinos. And I think for me, the important thing is to understand for what the internet means to those communities, right? So, oftentimes I think of the internet as checking my email or social or just looking for things on the internet, where for a lot of people who don't have access to the internet, it now becomes their bank. And they're able to do fintech transactions that they weren't able to do in the past with Gcash and others. It becomes a source for administrators and teachers to be able to better educate the students and giving them access to updated modules and teaching students how to do research and study. And the internet it's game changing. I mean, we used to be big about providing electricity. Electricity is a utility that's no longer thought of as something that we need to worry about for most people. Most people have access to power. Now we really need to be able to connect the rest of the people in the Philippines to the internet. And so we need to look for every available opportunity to be able to do that in our country.
Calvin was mentioned last week about the sudden changes on the terms of reference as to who will qualify, which company can qualify. And Calvin mentioned last week also that their technology, his company's technology is the best technology being used worldwide by more than 25 countries, if I'm not mistaken. And what worries him is if DICT will limit the terms of preference or the companies that will be allowed to bid in this internet connection, he worries that the country or most people, the public, will be using a poor internet connection. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are that he's right. His company that I believe he represents is a group called Pacific. which is a really large satellite provider in our region. Their satellite was launched just a couple of years ago. And satellites that are that size, they only have a useful life of around 15 years. And so the satellite that a lot of us are using in the Philippines who are connected to VSATs is a company called TICOM-4 or IP Star. That satellite will no longer be in service. It's already past its life of service. So there's going to be a bunch of connections in the Philippines that will go offline, and there's not really anything you can do about it. Once that satellite reaches its lifespan, then they just take the remaining fuel and they push it into deep space. And so all of these clinics and schools and other things that are connected to it, they're just going to go offline. And I'm not sure why we're not talking about it more and understanding who is connected right now to IP Star and what we're doing to address that, because it's not like they can just switch from globe to smart. It's not that simple. Those things have to be addressed. Malaysia is so far ahead of this in their country that they launched their own satellite just to address the loss of that satellite. And we're not talking about it here, and I'm not sure why.
If DICT will be choosing, change the TOR, the terms of preference, for a bidding company with a dilapidated satellite, I'm sure there will be a big problem. I mean, government will be paying, the public will be paying, is spending money to pay the whoever will wins if they will be reducing the terms of reference or limiting the terms of reference for participating companies. Is that right?
100% agree. I mean, I do believe that the terms of reference mention that the satellite must still have 7 years of useful life, which IP Star clearly wouldn't clarify. Well, wouldn't meet that objective. So, there's that issue. There's also just opening up to everyone who has bandwidth in our country. It doesn't do any good for these countries to win these bids and they're not have any capacity to fulfill it. So there's currently a very large project at DWIZ that continues to be extended. It's over a year now, and no satellites have been installed, no VSATs have been installed. I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, but it very well could be related to the lack of bandwidth that's available because they've limited the providers that they actually can deliver services for those projects.
I'm sure many of our friends at DICT or from NTC also are aware of the limitation of the bandwidth with the new with the sudden changes of the terms of preference for bidding companies. Give me your honest opinion on this, Nathan. What do you think is happening that they want to limit?
I'm not, Raul, I'm not really sure, and I've always, as a well taken care of guest in your country for so long, I want to avoid any conjecture, right? So. I know this. I know Pacific Satellite has 600 plus sites under the DICT right now, running and operating, 150 with DSWD, 150 with the Philippine Army, 40 with the PNP, 35 with DepEd, 25 with CHED, and 7 with the Ports Authority, and another 60 with provincial and municipal hospitals. They're currently running. Matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, the DICT on their Facebook page posted a post about a project with the United Nations Development Program in front of a Pacific satellite.
Oh, really?
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they can suggest that why on some projects they're limiting it, and other ones they're publicly announcing it on their Facebook page, not to mention the 600 plus sites that are currently with the ICT using Pacific bandwidth on their free Wi-Fi project. Oh. So I'll leave it to your listeners to try and figure out what's going on. And all I know is this, Sir Raul, I've seen the teleport under construction right now for Starlink. It's different than these other satellites. Obviously, it's been in the news and it's very well known project. Please welcome every provider into the country to deliver services to the Filipino.
Not
every
limit.
Provider.
Okay, not limit to.
No, especially when there's no bandwidth. These satellites, one of them's going offline at any time now. It will just run out, and there's not a lot you can do about it. You can't really fix it. No astronauts are going to fly up and fix that satellite. So once they go offline, That's it. So, yeah.
Okay. Calvin is now online. Calvin, are you online? Okay, Calvin Parpan of Pacific, right?
Stereosat Solutions Inc. and Pacific. Yes, sir. Raul, magandang tanghali po sa inyo.
Okay, magandang tanghali. We have to speak in English, no, Calvin, because Nathan, although he can understand Filipino, don't be misled by his look, but he understands Filipino, huh? I've known him for more than 20 years, ever since her daughter was very young. Right, Nathan? Okay. Calvin, can you share with us, right now, you are connected with DICT and you are handling many projects, not only for DICT, but also for other agencies, right?
As of the moment, sir, we did serve the Department of Information and Communication Technology, or DICT, for some of its projects. That is what we call the free Wi-Fi program for the NIDA sites, or the geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. These projects were delivered by the national government to the, of course, to the constituencies, our fellow Filipinos, to have this free public Wi-Fi using the advantage of these technologies. And of course, all other agencies and all other private sector engagements, that those are the entities that we are serving with Stereosat and with Pacific. Just like what I've briefed everyone, yes, previous discussion, the technology, sir, that we have right now is something that the Filipinos can enjoy at the moment because of the fact that this is new. Second, the availability of broadband capacity that Pacific is delivering in the country is very high, and the fact that this deployment or this development is funded by ADB, or Asian Development Bank, the goal of the group and the whole Pacific is to provide internet services to the underserved markets, including those areas that doesn't have any connectivity at all. That is the mission, that is the vision, and that's what we will continue in providing to our fellow Filipinos, Sir Raul.
Is your company, Calvin, functioning well? I mean, with all your contracts with the government, have you delivered what was required by the government?
Yes, of course, sir. And that's the reason why we were able to secure several engagements, secure several contracts as well to both local government and national government. It is of the fact that the product and the service that we are providing, which is the satellite broadband connectivity powered by Pacific, is well efficiently used by our stakeholders, our constituents.
Okay. Now, if, as you have mentioned during last week, Calvin, you mentioned that there's a sudden change on the terms of preference as to what company can participate. What would be, I've asked this earlier, what would be the effect if the ICT will be choosing a lesser internet connection that is substandard?
Well, basically, just like what we have discussed previously, sir, the change of, or the exclusion of what we call KA band technology in the options of list of available technology that can be used by the department or by the national government could be very detrimental and be very grossly disadvantageous to the national government because of the fact that by then, since it was excluded, the government won't have any option anymore to seek this particular technology that is being used widely in Asia Pacific, and not just in Asia Pacific, but in a lot of countries in the world, and is considered as the newest technology available in the satellite spectrum.
And I think another good point to make, like, what is the result of being excluded, having the KA band being excluded. I think one of the important points is that there's a delay in the implementation of these projects, which can be clearly seen as a delay in the DepEd project. It's delayed in part because they don't have the bandwidth to do
really?
it. And so by taking bandwidth off of the availability, it makes it more difficult to execute on this project. So
what's the cause of the delay? What's the cause of the delay with the internet project with DEX?
They don't have the bandwidth.
Really?
They don't have the bandwidth to deliver that project.
In your information, how much are we spending? I mean, the government is spending for that project that does not have the bandwidth.
Calvin may know those numbers. I can get them to you, Sir Raul.
But it's a different company.
It's a different group, correct? Yep.
Okay. Kaya pala.
So that project was asked to be extended, I think, once or maybe twice already, because they can't execute on it yet. I believe it has to do with the bandwidth. Somebody told me that it may have something to do with they had difficulty finding the schools. I'm not sure that's the excuse I would use.
Kaya pala, yung feedback sa akin ng mga estudyante, ng mga teacher, ng mga principal, yung internet daw na nakuha sa DEX. I don't know what company is that, mukhang hindi sila nakakonekta. So wala pala silang bandwidth. How come, Calvin, how come the ICT, I'm sure they are aware of this, and they've been getting the same feedback that I'm getting. How come they are just silent about this?
Well, to be honest, Mr. Sir Raul, that is the very same question that we are seeking to these departments. Because in the end of the day, of course, everybody wants to offer the best option or available technology in the market. And just like what Sir Nathan has said, I mean, let's open the market. Let's open all available technologies that could help our department, our government, that can be used by our fellow Filipinos.
Parang may option, Parang may option ng Pilipino, ang ating bayan, na hindi lang limitado sa isang kumpanya. Is that what you're saying, Calvin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For me, it's like radio. I mean, you cannot just single out one radio company, right? You want to open everyone so that everybody could have their option where to hear it. So just like with internet, you want to open up this technology or this internet capability to all other service providers who are able to provide these services to the Filipinos, because in the end of the day, the demand is very high, and as we all know, our country is just at the verge of being, connected and bridging the digital divide, right? So if we will exclude these types of technology, I'm not saying that it's only with Stellar, Sat, or Pacific. Again, just like what I've said, sir, it will be very, very disadvantageous to the Filipinos.
Okay.
It also causes unnecessary price increases. The more competitors we have providing these services, doing these bids,
the more it would be cheaper.
Of course, right? And the better the services will be. It's oftentimes why people keep talking about more providers for our telcos with Smart and Globe, right? They believe that somebody will come in and that will be more competitive for both pricing and service. The same thing with the satellite services.
Meantime, we'll just give a few minutes for our advertisers. Our company have to earn. Just give some sponsors break. We'll be back. Don't go away. DWIZ. Balik po tayo sa balitang Paliparan at tinatalakay po natin ang isang importanteng issue na may kaugnayan sa kinabukasan ng ating bayan. Ito po'y may kaugnayan sa internet connection. Nasa kabilang linya pa ulit, Mace, no? At nasa kabilang linya po natin ang katauhan ni Sir Calvin Parpan, isa po sa may-ari ng Pacific. at siya po ang provider ng internet sa iba't ibang ahensya, at si Nathan Kinsella, isa pong negosyante, isa po aking kaibigan. Siya po naglapit sa akin nito upang maiparating sa inyo ang importanteng bagay na issue na ito. Dahil kaya pala ang DepEd malaking problema sa internet. Yung palang katotohanan, ang internet provider nila limitado yung bandwidth. And sinasabi ngayon sa atin ni Nathan and ni Calvin is dapat ngayon pa lang wag limitahan ang bandwidth, wag limitahan ang makakasali na mabibigyan ng kontrata sa pamahalaan na minamadali umano ng DICT, dahil kapag nagsimula tayo sa mababa o pangit na internet, forever na po tayong inaaway ng mga anak natin, ng mga misis natin tuwing walang internet sa ating mga bahay. Okay, going back to Nathan and to Calvin. Calvin, as you were saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ang epekto ng internet connection, if we get a limited terms of reference and limited to companies, siguro maganda, Calvin, na ipaliwanag mo ano ang, I'm sure nararanasan na rin ng ating mga kababayan, ano ang kahalagahan kapag maganda ang internet connection mo at kapag ngayon pa lang sinimulan nila na maganda ang TOR?
Well, unang-una, since gobyerno or national government ang nag-procure or nagsisik ng serbisyong ito para sa mga constituents natin, sa mga Filipinos, nararapat lamang na talagang sila din mismo ang unang mag-implement ng open competitiveness sa proseso ito, sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay or pagbubukas ng lahat ng available na option ng connectivity para dito sa programa or sa proyekto na to. It is very ironic, Sir Raul, that our government did amend the Public Service Act, which requires or which allows already 100% ownership to foreign entities to own foreign or local equities in our corporations, local corporations, which include telcos. And yet, our national government through DICT is the very same agency who is limiting this particular option to be only limited to a couple of few providers. So those are the things that we wanted to really consult or to really be addressed by DICT, because in the end of the day, this is public service, and if it's public service, we need to provide all the best possible service to our constituents, to our fellow Filipinos. So again, this is a call to the department and to all other stakeholders that probably you have to take a look about the possibility of utilizing all available options that the government would be able to have. And any day, of course, this is a public bidding. It's being conducted in fairness, in competitiveness. If they see that this particular technology is something that, yes, it's nice, but would not suit best in terms of the commercial viability of the department's project, they have all the option to fail it or not to include it.
Okay, Nathan, how about you?
What's more important,
but maybe
they have to open it.
Right, but maybe they might want to explain when they do that why it's okay that they do a project with the United Nations Development Program through DICT using this particular technology, yet it's not okay for these other projects. There's no alignment between those two things, right? It doesn't work for some of your projects and not others of your projects. That doesn't make any sense because you're providing essentially the same service across all of those different projects. So there's no real alignment with that. That doesn't make sense.
Well, masyadong umiinit ang issue na ito. If you guys are both available by 2 p.m., we can continue this. And thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you very much, Calvin, for your time. I hope you will be available by 2 p.m. And until next Saturday, hanggang sa susunod pong Sabado, patuloy po kayo sumubaybay sa aming programa. At ito po ang inyong lingkod mo abati na magandang hapon, Raul Esperas.